Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 1. This is Quantic Apocalypse up against Rox.Kis Frere. And I'm joined, of course, by FireZerg. How you doing, FireZerg?
Doing great, thanks. How about yourself?
I can't complain, man. Now, I know you might not have too much tournament experience with both these players, but do you know anything about Apocalypse or Frere in terms of their, just their overall style, what they like to do? I know you still play at, like, not super competitive, but you still play.
I don't have very much experience on the European ladder, regrettably, so no. I hear it's a great ladder, and I probably should.
Oh, yeah, definitely. European and Korean ladder, I would say. It's arguably better than the US ladder. I don't think it's arguably, but whatever.
Yeah, this is what I hear.
But nevertheless, we do have cross positions on Shattered Temple. Now, Shattered Temple is definitely a map that we've seen time and time again in the ladder, in so many different tournaments. But, tell me a little bit about your experiences on this particular map.
Well, as a Zerg, of course, my experiences aren't terribly relevant to this game, but a lot of frustration trying to take a third base on this map. Destructible rocks really getting in the way.
Yeah, and as you can see, there are destructible rocks blocking the bottom right, and over here, this other expansion over here that used to be gold is no longer. But, that's definitely going to be a big thing. Where do they actually take the third? And I think that the top left, bottom right are the normal ones in TVP. Just because in TVP, a lot of the game works around like how strong pushes are or how strong harass is. So for Protoss, normally they want a strong push. For Terran, they normally want some sort of harass, that multi-pronged aggression that we see so many times. But we'll definitely keep an eye on what they do. Apocalypse is going to go ahead and take a tech lab. So he's going for some sort of Marauder expand, probably going Marauder expand with a Reaper. That's something that we see a lot. Actually, he's just going to go for a Reaper expand. No Marauders at all. Very interesting style. I haven't seen this actually played in a very long time. What this accomplishes is it gets a very fast expansion, and you actually get stim relatively early as well. You can actually opt to go Marines instead of Marauders after this, put down a bunker, and then really all all-ins are very difficult to actually execute because you have that, obviously, the Marines with stim, maybe even combat shields by the time a lot of different two-base all-ins come. So there's that command center. Let's go ahead and look at Frere. He's going for the fast expansion off of 24 supply, I think it was before. Very interesting way to actually expand, but I don't hate it. He's actually mimicking his opponent by fast expanding.
Yeah, we see this Reaper taking the long route to get around the Sun Lego Watchtower. Pro move right there from Apocalypse. How many kills do you think we're going to expect to see from this guy?
It shouldn't be that many. The Stalker is coming out here. Just about finished, and there it is. And this is actually a pretty late Reaper. I mean, Reapers don't actually get in before normal Stalker timings actually hit. I think he was actually expecting this one Stalker to not be there. And the big reason for that is because Stalkers, it comes at a time where normally the first Stalker comes out at around 4 minutes and 15 seconds, 4 minutes and 20 seconds, depending on how much you chrono boost. So having that Stalker out there at a really weird time, normally you're hitting right when the Zealot and the Stalker are moving. So I think it was a little bit bad by Apocalypse to actually keep going in there. He should have known, okay, my Reaper is probably going to hit some sort of Stalker because the Zealot is there as well. If I know that, I shouldn't be here too long with this Reaper, just get the maximum scout and then go from there.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can do that. You can pull back out and get a scout in later, and you can also shut down things like this pylon here on the right. This is probably going to be very important as the game progresses. Something you can do with your Reaper. Get some extra value out of it.
Because we actually have a 3-Stalker follow-up to this. This is one, this is a pretty powerful push because it's actually the second wave where it's an alarming amount of Stalkers in this early game stage. You're just not prepared for it normally. Having all these Stalker Zealots and this single sentry. This is a really popular just little type of harass that I see so many different times. Apocalypse only has Marines to his name. He's not getting those Marauders just yet. And that will pose a little bit of a problem because basically Frere is going to be able to harass him all day long. And even with that combat shield, it's going to be very difficult to actually have a successful engagement here.
Yeah, and as you mentioned previously, Apocalypse really wants to rely on a bunker to defend this. Not going to be able to get that down.
Yeah.
However, he's going to be way ahead on the upgrades. His +1 for Marines almost finished, and no forge yet for the Protoss.
Yeah, this is a really, really powerful type of opening, but you need that bunker down. It's pretty critical that he didn't get that bunker down. Instead, he opted for the much, much faster tech. You can see that the factory is already down. The starport is on the way out, so we're going to have like 9-minute, most likely 9-minute, 30-second medevac, somewhere around there. So his tech is going to be beautiful. It's just his positioning is not good at all. Let's look at the income tab. 40 harvesters at 30. And look at that mineral disparity. That's pretty large.
Yeah, so Terran's really going to need a miracle to pull this one out. More or less? Is that what you think?
I mean, he's behind. He needs to utilize his tech, definitely, to get back into this. This will have to do a lot more damage than normal games, in my opinion. But look at this. He actually has been getting so many upgrades and everything, and he's been spending his gas so much that he doesn't have enough gas to actually produce 2 medevacs at the same time. So this whole reactor stuff is pretty useless. Like, he's nerfing himself. Really, really big shame, but he's going to push out with this first group of Marines here, and we'll see, is it going to be able to do any damage at all? I don't think it should do much damage, but time will tell. Big stim goes off from all of Quantic's, or excuse me, Apocalypse Marines. He needs to be so careful because those sentries prove to be a very big threat to them. If ever he gets caught out of position, a couple force shields, Guardian Shield comes up, and he's in a really, really bad position.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Protoss attacking these rocks very early. Looks like he's going to take his third right about now. As the
Hold that thought real quick. There's a big engagement going on in the middle of the map. Mass Marines going up against just Gateway Army. The 2 medevacs are there to help out quite a bit. That's going to be the saving grace, I think, for the Terran. But as we speak, a drop for the Protoss is coming out as well. But I'm sorry to cut you off there. Go ahead, Rock.
Not at all. That's exactly what you're talking about there with the sentries. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble with the Terran moving out in the middle of the map. Of course, it's the correct move, but you have to be very careful. I was just going on about this third base potentially coming up for the Protoss. We don't even really see it started right here. As a Terran, how do you recover from this situation, assuming that you are behind?
Well, you definitely have to take down those back rocks in the mid-left. I mean, that's essential. And things like this, Apocalypse is able to get his Marines and Marauders down. That's critical. If those Stalkers were just slightly in position, it would be a much different story. But you can see a lot of damage is being done. This is pretty standard, seeing that it comes out of timing when normally Protoss doesn't have the capability of doing anything. Wow, big stim goes off. And this is going to kill a lot of the Gateway units. But unfortunately for Apocalypse, he doesn't have a lot of follow-up to this, so it's going to be very difficult to actually do additional damage. What he should have done was had something go in the natural. You can see units just idle back at the natural of his base. He's actually taking command center. But I think it would have really, really helped if he actually indeed went for some sort of combination attack where he had Marines and Marauders in the front. That's normally what you have happen, but you know, he did exactly what he needed to do. I think FireZerg. He took advantage of his mobility and was able to net a lot of kills. Let's go ahead and look at it. 14 workers killed in that engagement, and the harvester count has evened up.
Yeah, and just as importantly, the supplies. I think it's been about 10 to 20 supply head for Protoss all game long, and this is actually at least evened it up. Terran was actually ahead by a little bit for a brief moment there. So very impactful play, the drop.
Yeah, we're going to give an advantage to Apocalypse actually right now, just because he has his 1-1 up. His opponent only has his 1 armor up. Now there should be a continuation there. You can see the armor is plopped down. It's almost finished, so he's looking really, really good right now. Frere is in a little bit of a pickle because he's trying to defend against all these annoying drops, and this is the type of combination attack we wanted to see before. There's the big stim in front, but that one Colossus is doing so much damage. He's targeting it down right now with those Marauders, but is it going to be enough? He backs up a little bit. The Colossus is able to stay alive, and another Colossus is going to pop out here. It's going to do so much damage now. I think he has to back up, but Apocalypse is actually still going in, so just like that, he's he's not getting these good trades. 2 Colossus do live from that, and you lose a lot of Marines and Marauders. That's a lot of the map control that you kind of threaten with all of these units. I don't like that trade.
Yeah, so a bit of an overextension there, maybe, from Terran?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Now, if you've been staring at this probe in the top left corner, as I have for the past 4 minutes, you gotta be... Oh, there it goes. There's the Nexus. I feel like something has delayed the plans of Protoss here significantly. 4 minutes for Nexus is very significant. What was Terran able to do to stop that Nexus from going down for so long?
Well, it's just the drops, and really when the drops happen, they do that much damage. You need a lot more units to actually deal with everything, because it could be some sort of 2-base all-in. There's a lot of things that could go wrong for the Protoss. You can see there's a War Prism actually in the bottom middle. But see, this top left, taking this top left, think about how much space Terran takes when they do something like this. I mean, Protoss is really vulnerable all at the main. Apocalypse, if he did some sort of combination like that, he would be in a beautiful position. Of course, he's not going to right now, as we can see the whole map and everything that's going on. I would love Apocalypse to be a little bit more active with these units. He consistently has units all the way at home, not really doing anything. I think taking that space is probably one of the most important things in TVP, and making sure your opponent isn't getting too cheeky with his unit positioning.
Now we see the War Prism on the move. Some Zealots going down in the middle line there. And this is great. That in conjunction with this pylon on the right, unfortunately hasn't been used, but warping in a couple of Zealots there and marching them down to this third. These are things that could really swing it back into Protoss' favor, I believe.
Unfortunately for him, he's not getting too many kills with that, so that kind of stinks. The third is taken over here, and you know, I think Apocalypse, I'm not sure about this particular position. I understand why he wants to take it. Still, it gives you great position in the center of the map, but you know, I would have loved him. I think still the preferable one is the bottom right one. We'll see if it actually affects him, as it looks like Freyr is actually moving out here, and I think he needs to be so careful. He blinks back. But, you know, there's a ton of Vikings in this composition. Let's go ahead and look. Looks like 7, so I take that back. 7 against 5 Colossus. This is a huge overextension of Colossus, in my opinion. You can see a small little drop in the top left-hand corner. It's going to do a ton of damage. It looks like no units are actually able to get over there. And here we go. Actually, multi-pronged attacks. These Stalkers caught way out of position. And here we go. The Colossus are doing so much damage. This is not enough Vikings. Look at how fast this Terran army melts. I don't think engaging here was the best decision, because the Protoss is just going to clean everything up. Great conjunction of the Sentries and the Colossus. Colossus were able to do basically anything they wanted, but meanwhile in the top left-hand corner, that Nexus does go down. So unfortunate for Freyr in this position, but Apocalypse definitely loses a lot out of that engagement.
Yeah, Protoss not in the best position losing that third, but nonetheless a very impressive hold. He was about 30 supply down going into that engagement, and somehow managed to hold.
Yeah, and you know, based on army composition right now, I think Freyr, he can just mass on Stalkers from here on out, because his Colossus count has been kept in good fashion. I mean, like, he doesn't really have to worry about all this. Now you can see another engagement going here. There you go. The Stalkers are going to target down all the Vikings, protect the Colossus as much as possible, but it might just be too much. Apocalypse upgrades are 2-2, whereas we only have 1-2 out for the Protoss. And yes, this is going to be too much. The Marines and Marauders are just too plentiful, and he's going to have to back up completely after losing, looks like, all of his units. So very nice engagement for Apocalypse. I think, you know, obviously Freyr, I think he overextended right there. He should have waited a little bit. What you want to do when you're at that, you know, really good Colossus retention, you just keep massing up in Stalkers and make it to a point where they can tank as well as just fire enough. So it's like you split half of your Stalkers to attack the Vikings, and the other half just to tank the Marine Marauder damage, and then you're in a position where your Colossus just do insane amount of damage.
Yeah, keeping those Colossus alive, obviously very important. 9 Vikings, though, in that last engagement.
Oh, God.
And another 3 in this one.
Yeah, and he actually just sacks everything. GG comes out, and Freyr will fall in the first game. So that's going to do it, FireZerg. We have ourselves a 1-0 victory right now for Apocalypse. Apocalypse had much better upgrades in that end stage, but I do feel like there were constant trades all over the place. But I think Apocalypse overall just made less mistakes than his opponent, and that gave him the very clear advantage going into that end game stage.
Yeah, I feel a bit sheepish right now. Around about the beginning of that game, I was saying it was going to take a miracle for Terran to pull that one out, and there he goes. He wins the game. So I got all sorts of questions for you, eager to learn as a Zerg player. What if you could identify one key thing? What was it that allowed Terran to win that game?
It was that drop, the first 2 medevac drop that ended a lot of the problems for Apocalypse. Basically, when you're denied that expansion for so long, you're saying to yourself, okay, well, I'm behind maybe in 500 to 1,000 minerals. There's a lot more units for my opponent. What are my advantages? It's actually mobility and the ability to do a lot of damage with a lot less units than your opponent. The big things that, the big components, I should say, were the fact that he had 2 medevacs and he had +1 weapons attack. And with those 2, your drops are actually very, very strong. And a lot of times Protoss will separate their army, so in case there is some sort of attack in the front, but that didn't even happen. So when Apocalypse went to drop, the Protoss actually used, not half, but like 3/4 of his units, and that was just not enough. It did way too much damage, and not only did he suffer probe losses, but he suffered really, really cost-efficient engagements for the Terran. That was a big thing. And from there, he was able to gain momentum. It stopped the third from his opponent. Apocalypse actually went a fast third off of that harass, and it was relatively early. And just those components gave him the ability to have a gigantic advantage. He always maintained the upgrade advantage, and from there, he was able to just play a very standard game after that.
Great, thank you. Now, from the Protoss's perspective, so I think it was around about 9 minutes. If I'm the Protoss, I've kept Terran off of his natural, done everything I want to do. Now, he was taking out the Rox, looking to take a fast third. That didn't really come together for him. That seemed like it wasn't maybe the right play. Do you know at that point, as the Protoss, this drop play or multi-pronged attack from a Terran, that's his only out, so to speak?
Correct.
And can you prepare for that?
There's actually 2 options for the Terran. It's going to be an all-in push at the natural, even bringing SEVs, but that's a very, very extreme. But there's that option, and there's the dropping option. Normally, it's always the dropping option, because the dropping option actually allows a lot of space, a lot of different things to be done in the natural and the main, whether it's a fast third, whether it's double barracks directly after that, whether it's high tech, whether it's ghost. There's a number of things that Terran can do, but normally Protoss is out in the dark at that position. So going for the drop is completely standard. Actually taking the third or trying to take the third in top left hand position, I think is very incorrect. But I think Frere did expect his opponent to actually drop. He just didn't expect it to come that early, and it's really, really a shame, because I think Frere did position his Stalkers in a pretty nice position, but he just couldn't get there in time. It was just maybe 5-10 seconds, and he would have had a much, much better engagement when the first 2 drops came in. So that being said, Frere is going to fall. Really, really unfortunate for him, but very nice play for Apocalypse. And we're going to move on to game number 2 coming up, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be Quantic versus Rox.Kis, with Quantic up 1-0. Don't go away. We'll be after this break.